Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, our mission is pretty direct. We're going to try and install a new operating system for your career and for your life by diving straight into the mind of Naval Ravikant.
If you think of, Warren Buffett as the master of 20th century capital, Naval has sort of become the master Yoda for building wealth and peace in this new digital age.
Exactly. And we're not just talking about getting rich. We're focusing on his core framework, mostly from the Almanack, for building wealth that actually leads to freedom and peace, not just, more anxiety on a bigger scale.
This is really for anyone who feels like they're running on that old blueprint. The one where you work harder and harder, you're smarter than ever, but you feel like you're getting less and less back in terms of actual wealth and satisfaction.
Right. And to really get why that old system is so broken, we have to start with this one true story that is. It's just the perfect illustration. It's the brilliant and frankly absurd story of a guy named Bob.
Ah, yes. Bob the programmer.
Bob the programmer. He was a senior software engineer at Verizon, a huge U.S. company, and he was making the kind of money most people dream of, around $250,000 a year.
And by all accounts, he was this model employee, right? Quiet, kept to himself, and his code was apparently impeccable, always on time, flawless work. He was the perfect corporate cog.
The perfect cog, until a routine security audit happened. The audit team finds something. Well, deeply alarming. They're seeing these constant, very long login sessions to Verizon's most secure servers.
Okay, so that's a red flag.
A massive red flag.
Yeah.
The logins were using Bob's credentials, but they weren't coming from his office or his home. They were all originating from Shenyang, China.
So their first thought has to be corporate espionage, like a state-sponsored attack using a compromised employee.
That's exactly what they thought. Panic stations. But the truth, when they finally dug it up, was it was just pure comedy. It turns out Bob absolutely despised his job. He hated coding.
So what did he do?
He hired a software consulting firm in Shenyang, China, to do his entire job for him. He outsourced himself. He paid them $50,000 a year.
No way!
And he pocketed the $200,000 difference. And the investigators, they dug into his browser history to see what Bob was actually doing all day.
I can't wait to hear this.
He'd clock in, spend a couple hours on Reddit, maybe do a little shopping on eBay, have some lunch, and then his afternoons were apparently dedicated to watching cat videos.
So he automated his job, but with a person.
Exactly. Now, the story ends predictably. He was fired for, massive security violations. But this is where Naval's insight comes in. Ethically, Bob was a total failure. Professionally, a disaster. But in terms of pure wealth logic...
He was a genius, a kind of perverse genius, but a genius nonetheless.
Yes. He accidentally cracked the code, he stopped renting out his time, and he started using leverage. In this case, global labor leverage, the wage gap. He was managing an asset.
He decoupled his input from the output. He realized his time wasn't the thing being paid for, the clean code was. And he found a cheaper way to produce it.
And that's the connection for everyone listening. You might be smarter, more ethical, harder working than Bob. You're grinding out 10-hour days, drowning in emails.
And you're stuck on the hamster wheel, the classic rat race. You work harder, which makes you exhausted, so you reward yourself with what Naval calls compensatory spending.
The nice car, the bigger house, the fancy vacation. I deserve this because I work so hard.
But that spending just locks you in. Now you have to work that hard just to pay for the things that make working that hard bearable. It's a closed loop.
And the brutal truth that Naval points out is that the operating system itself is obsolete. You are playing the input time equals output money game.
And it's unwinnable. It has to be. Your time is finite, but desire and inflation are basically infinite. A linear input can't solve an exponential problem.
This is why Naval's perspective is so critical. I mean, this is a guy who came from nothing. He immigrated from India at 9, grew up poor, and is completely self-made. Founder of AngelList, early investor in Twitter, Uber.
But it's not just the money. That's the key. People follow him because he's not just wealthy. He's famously calm and peaceful in an industry, Silicon Valley, that's defined by anxiety and chaos.
He lives what he teaches, and his core promise, the name of his famous tweet storm, is the whole mission here. Get rich without getting lucky.
That phrase is everything, without getting lucky. He's saying this is a skill, a system, not a lottery ticket. He claims you could take everything from him, and he could rebuild it all in 5 or 10 years just by applying these principles.
And that's the system we're going to deconstruct today.
Yeah. Okay, so before we can even start building this new machine for wealth, Naval insists on a concept cleanse. a mental decluttering.
Right, because we spend our whole lives chasing things, but we often use the wrong words for them. And if you have the wrong target, you'll always run in the wrong direction. He says we have to clearly separate three terms that everyone mixes up: money, status, and wealth. So let's start with number one, money.
Money, he says, is not wealth. It's just a social IOU. It's a credit. It's a voucher society gives you for creating value in the past that you can redeem for value in the future.
You bake a great loaf of bread, someone gives you money, you write a piece of code, society gives you this IOU.
The fatal flaw, and so many people fall into this, is thinking the goal is to hoard the IOUs, to just stack up cash.
But that's a losing game. That cash, that money, is constantly depreciating because of inflation, and it's not working for you. It's just sitting there losing value every single day.
So money is just the transfer mechanism. It's not the destination.
Exactly. Now, the second one is the real psychological trap, especially today: status.
The zero-sum game.
The ultimate zero-sum game. Status is just your rank in the social hierarchy. It's all relative. I'm a VP, you're a director. I drive a Porsche, you drive a Toyota.
And for you to win a status game, someone else has to lose. For you to become number one, someone has to be demoted to number two. It's inherently adversarial.
Which is why he says it's the primary source of anger and anxiety. Corporate politics, infighting, comparing yourself on Instagram, it's all status seeking, and it's a game with no real prize.
Because creating actual wealth is a positive sum game. If you build a great product, everyone who uses it wins, and you win by getting paid. The pie gets bigger for everyone. Status games are just about fighting over who gets the biggest slice of a fixed pie.
So you have to opt out of those games. Which brings us to the real target. Number three, wealth.
And the definition is non-negotiable. Wealth is the thing that earns while you sleep.
It's the assets. It's the business that's running, the software that's selling subscriptions, the investments generating dividends, all happening while you're on vacation or with your family or literally asleep.
This is the idea that completely shatters the traditional career path. Even a top surgeon or a high-powered lawyer, they're still what Naval calls high-end wage laborers.
Oof. That's a brutal phrase, but it's true.
It is. Because the second they stop working, the income stops. Their time is not scalable. It's a one-to-one relationship, an hour of work for an hour of pay.
So the goal has to shift. It's not about getting a higher salary. That's the wrong target. The only target that matters is owning equity.
You have to own a piece of the business, a piece of the machine. It could be stocks. It could be your own company. It could be the intellectual property of a book you wrote.
Without that ownership, you are always renting out your time. And you can never get truly free by renting out your time.
And what's so powerful now, and this is the big change from our parents' generation, is that the definition of an asset has expanded. You used to need millions to build a factory.
Right. You need capital and permission.
Now an asset can be a podcast. It can be a unique idea. It can be a piece of code you write on your laptop. The barrier to creating an asset, to owning a piece of equity, had to just plummeted.
So if the goal is equity, how do we get it? This leads to Naval's core formula, which is less about math and more a strategic guide to positioning yourself.
Yeah, it's a framework, he says. Wealth, specific knowledge plus leverage plus accountability.
Let's break those down, starting with the one that I think confuses people the most. Specific knowledge.
This is so important. We are trained to think specific knowledge is, your MBA, your accounting degree, your law degree. Naval says no, that's generic knowledge.
Why generic?
Because it can be taught in a classroom from a textbook. If it's standardized, it means other people can learn it just as easily. It means it's replaceable.
And if you're replaceable, you can't command a premium. The market can always find someone cheaper or just automate the task.
Exactly. True specific knowledge is found at the intersection of your unique skills and your genuine obsessive curiosities. It's the stuff you can't be trained to do.
He has this beautiful litmus test for it, the play test. He asks, what is something that feels like play to you, but looks like work to others?
That's the killer question. Because if you are just grinding it out, using discipline to get through your workday, you are competing against people who are genuinely having fun.
You can't win that competition.
Right.
You're enduring pain for a paycheck, and they're in a state of flow. The work itself is their reward. They would do it for free.
Which is why you have to do this archaeological dig into your own past. What were you obsessed with as a teenager? What problems did you stay up all night trying to solve for fun?
It's about combining those seemingly useless interests. The Joe Rogan example is perfect. Individually, his skills are just, what? Chatting. Knowing about MMA? speculating about aliens.
Yeah, not exactly high-value skills on their own.
But when you combine them, that specific fusion creates a product that's impossible to replicate. Nobody else has that exact stack. That's his moat. That's his specific knowledge.
So you find that unique thing you can provide, but that's not enough. You then have to attach your name to it, which leads to the second part of the formula, accountability.
Or, as it's often called, skin in the game.
Right. And this is the complete opposite of how corporate America is structured. The whole point of a big corporation is often to diffuse risk. Plausible deniability.
It was a committee decision. We all signed off on it. Failure is collective, so no single person takes the fall.
Naval says to get rich, you must do the exact opposite. You have to take on public risk under your own name. Society only grants you massive rewards, equity, if you're willing to bear massive singular risk.
He uses the captain analogy. A ship's captain earns 10 times more than a sailor, not because he's scrubbing the deck harder.
No, it's because a sailor can jump ship if things go bad. The captain has to go down with the ship. They bear the ultimate public risk of failure.
That's what society pays for, the willingness to accept the catastrophic downside. So the mandate is you have to become a personal brand. Own your wins and, crucially, own your failures publicly.
If you're not willing to risk public failure, criticism, or even bankruptcy, you will always be a well-paid employee. You'll never be an owner. Accountability is the price of admission for leverage. Okay, so you have your specific knowledge and you have the accountability to put your name on it. But the real magic, the amplifier, is leverage.
This is what turns 1 unit of your effort into 10,000 units of output. It's the great equalizer.
And to really understand the opportunity now, you have to understand the 3 different eras of leverage, because the advice our parents got is now mostly wrong.
So what's the first and oldest form?
Labor. This is just managing other people. And Naval calls this the worst form of leverage.
The worst. But managing a huge team is seen as a sign of success.
It is, but it's miserable. Managing humans is messy, it's emotional, it requires endless meetings and conflict resolution. It's why so many rich bosses are also stressed, unhealthy, and unhappy. You get dragged down by the complexity of managing people.
And that's actually the trap Bob fell into, wasn't it? He used labor leverage by hiring that firm in China.
Exactly. It was an old-school solution to a modern problem, and it came with all this human-related messiness, like security risks and ethical breaches, that ultimately blew up in his face.
Okay, so if labor is the worst, what's the second era?
The second is capital. This is using money to make more money, the Warren Buffett model. This dominated the 20th century. If you can borrow $1 billion and make a 5% return, you're set.
But the barrier to entry there is huge. It requires permission.
Massive permission. You need banks, investors, VCs. You need gatekeepers to give you access to that capital. It's not something an ordinary person can just decide to do.
Which brings us to today, the third era of leverage, the game changer.
The new superpower. Code and media. This is the age of permissionless leverage.
Permissionless, that's a key word.
It's everything. You don't need a CEO's approval to upload an app to the App Store. You don't need a TV executive's permission to start a YouTube channel. You can just do it. This is how normal people can leapfrog the entire hierarchy.
And both code and media share this incredible property, near zero marginal cost of replication.
Right. With code, you write the software once. And the cost to serve 1 customer or 1 million customers is basically the same. It's an army of robots working for you 24/7.
And with media, like this deep dive, we record it once, and it can be listened to by millions of people forever without us having to do any more work. It's an asset that keeps generating value.
So let's go back to Bob one last time. He had access to code leverage. He was a programmer.
What should he have done?
Instead of hiring a person labor leverage, he should have used that 50 grand to build a system, to write automation scripts that did his job for him. He should have used code leverage to automate himself.
And if he'd done that, he wouldn't have been breaking the rules. He would have been innovative.
He would have been a hero. And then he could have taken those scripts, that asset he built, and sold it back to Verizon or turned it into a SaaS product for other companies. He would have become a founder, not a disgraced employee. He just chose the wrong kind of leverage.
And for anyone listening who says, but I can't code,
then you need to learn to use media. Naval says writing is the new code. The ability to communicate clearly and persuasively online through a blog, a newsletter, a video. That is how you build your permissionless leverage. That's your robot army.
So we have the formula: specific knowledge, accountability, and this massive force multiplier of leverage. But there's a huge warning label that comes with this.
A very big one. Leverage is a double-edged sword. If you're amplifying your efforts by 10,000 times, and you're pointed in the wrong direction.
You're just going to fail 10,000 times faster.
Exactly. And this is why, in an age of infinite leverage, the single most important skill becomes judgment.
So it's not about how hard you work anymore. It's about what you choose to work on. Direction over speed.
100%. Think about it. In the old world, a bricklayer who worked 12 hours instead of 8 was 50% more productive. Effort was directly correlated with output.
But now, one correct decision, like investing in the right technology early or choosing the right business model, can be worth more than a lifetime of mediocre, grinding work.
And one bad decision, one wrong line of code deployed, can wipe out millions of dollars instantly. The stakes are much, much higher.
This is why he says hard work is overrated. We're all taught this Protestant work ethic to just grind, grind, grind. But so many people are just running furiously on a treadmill to nowhere.
They're fighting for a better seat on the Titanic. The effort is immense, but the judgment about which boat to be on is flawed.
So how do you cultivate better judgment? His advice is so counterintuitive. He says you need slack in your schedule.
Which is the opposite of what every successful person seems to do. Their calendars are packed, back-to-back meetings.
Right. But if your calendar is full, you can only react. You're just putting out fires all day. You have no time to think, to zoom out, to strategize.
That's why clear thinking is such a huge competitive advantage, because almost no one actually makes time for it. They mistake being busy for making progress.
So you build slack into your day. And in that free time, what do you fill your head with to build better judgment?
You have to master mental models. And to do that, you have to stop consuming what he calls fast food for the brain.
Which is the news. Business bestsellers.
Exactly. The news is optimized for outrage, not truth. And most business books are just one simple idea stretched over 300 pages. Instead, you have to read the hard books. You need to understand the fundamental source code of the world.
Things like microeconomics, game theory, evolution, physics.
Yes, the first principles. If you understand game theory, you know when to cooperate and when to compete in a negotiation. If you understand evolution, you understand why markets are so ruthless and why companies must adapt or die. These models give you a toolkit for making better decisions.
Okay, let's talk about the most practical and maybe most controversial mind hack he suggests for this. Setting an aspirational hourly rate.
This one sounds arrogant at first, but it's purely a tool for self-discipline. He says when he was broke, he valued his time at something insane, like $5,000 an hour.
How does that actually help you?
The rule is, if a task can be outsourced for less than your aspirational rate, you are not allowed to do it, period.
So things like doing your own laundry, fixing a leaky faucet, waiting in line for an hour to save $20.
All of it. You have to outsource it because the tool forces you to feel the intense pain of opportunity cost. If you're scrubbing dishes with your $5,000 an hour time, that should feel deeply, deeply wrong.
It's psychological training. If you don't value your own time, nobody else will.
That's the entire point. That pain is what forces you to seek leverage. It pushes you to ask, what is the $5,000 an hour problem I should be solving right now? It forces you to spend your time only on things that have an exponential return.
So we have the right knowledge, we have leverage, and we're guided by good judgment. But there's one final, crucial ingredient that ties it all together.
Patience. This is where the magic of compounding comes in. And it doesn't just apply to money. Naval says it applies to everything that matters.
Let's start with reputation compounding. His golden rule here is play long-term games with long-term people.
This is huge. If you build a reputation for integrity and reliability over decades, the best opportunities start to find you. You don't have to chase them anymore.
That's how we got into deals like Uber and Twitter early, right? His reputation for being a smart, trustworthy person acted as a magnet for the best deals.
It's the ultimate form of leverage. But it takes a very long time to build. And if you're constantly switching jobs, moving cities, or burning bridges for some short-term gain, you keep resetting that compounding clock to zero.
You're always starting from scratch.
And that brings us back to Bob. He played the ultimate short-term game. He grabbed a quick couple $100,000, but in doing so, he incinerated his professional reputation. He's now untrustworthy. He can't play the long game.
So compounding also applies to relationships.
Absolutely. He's ruthless about curating his circle. You have to avoid the pessimists, the cynics, the people who play zero-sum games. They will drain your energy and pull you down.
You want to surround yourself with optimistic, rational people who are playing positive-sum games. People who believe that by working together, Everyone can win. Your network itself becomes a compounding asset.
But the hardest part of all of this, the part where almost everyone gives up, is what he calls the valley of disappointment.
The brutal math of exponential growth.
It's so brutal because when you start, the results are invisible. You're putting in all this effort, and for the first year, maybe 2 years, nothing seems to happen. The curve is flat.
He tells that famous story of the stonecutter.
Yeah, from Jacob Riis. The stonecutter hammers away at a rock, maybe 100 times, and not a single crack appears. But then on the 101st blow, the rock splits in two.
And he says, I know it was not that last blow that did it, but all that had gone before.
That's compounding. Most people quit at the 99th blow. They write 10 blog posts, get no readers, and give up. They start a business, it's a grind for a year, and they quit right before the curve is about to go vertical.
Up before the knee of the curve.
You have to trust the math. You have to have the patience to stay in the game long enough to get through that valley and see the explosion on the other side.
Okay, let's fast forward. You've done it all.
Yeah.
The formula worked. You have, say, $20 million in the bank. You're set. Now what?
This is where the whole thing pivots. Because Naval's ultimate point is that if you haven't worked on your inner self, the money is worthless. He has that incredible quote, if you can't be happy when you're poor, you won't be happy when you're rich.
You'll just be a rich person with anxiety.
Yeah. Wealth just amplifies who you already are. It doesn't fix you.
And the main bug in our psychological software that we have to fix is something called the arrival fallacy.
We're all guilty of this. It's the script that says, when I get X, the promotion, the money, the house, then I'll finally be happy.
You're constantly deferring happiness to some future event.
Yeah.
You're punishing your present self for the sake of an imaginary future.
And then, when you finally get the thing, what happens? Hedonic adaptation. The thrill of the new car or the big house, it wears off. In a few months, it's just normal. Your baseline happiness returns right back to where it was.
You're like a greyhound chasing a mechanical rabbit. You catch it, and then another one just appears further down the track. The chase never ends.
Which is why we have to distinguish between pleasure and happiness. They are not the same thing.
Pleasure is that dopamine hit, right? Chocolate, social media, a new purchase, it's high stimulation.
And it's always followed by a crash, a hangover, a feeling of emptiness. Happiness in Naval's framework is the opposite. It's peace. It's a state of contentment.
He defines it as the state of having no desire. It's when you are no longer wishing you were somewhere else, with someone else, or having something else.
This is his rational Buddhist side coming out. He says, desire is a contract you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want. So the path to peace isn't satisfying all your desires, which is impossible. It's about eliminating them. The wealth is just a tool to buy you the freedom to say no to things that create stressful desires.
And this leads to maybe the most practical tool for happiness in the modern world, the total package theory. This is his cure for envy.
Envy is the killer of happiness, especially with social media, where you're just seeing everyone else's highlight reel.
You see the perfect vacation, the billion-dollar exit, and you feel terrible about your own life.
So the antidote is this. If you want to be someone else, you can't just pick and choose the good parts. You have to take their entire life. The total package.
So if you want Elon Musk's money,
you also have to take the 100-hour work weeks, the insane stress, the public criticism, the messy divorces, the inability to ever truly switch off. You have to take all of it.
When you look at it that way, you almost always say, no thanks.
You'd rather just be you. And in that moment, the envy dissolves. You realize everyone has their own package of suffering, and you can happily return to your own life. It's an incredibly powerful mental switch. When you put all of this together, it completely reframes the end goal of a career. It reframes the idea of retirement.
Yeah, he thinks the traditional model of retirement is just tragic. Sacrificing the best 40 years of your life doing something you don't like for some imaginary future when you're 65.
His definition is so much more powerful. He says, retirement is when you stop sacrificing today for an imaginary tomorrow.
So it's not an age, it's a state of being.
It's a state you can achieve right now. Path 1, save enough money. Path 2, become a minimalist and need almost no money. Or path 3, the ultimate goal, do what you love.
Which is the end state of this whole system. When your work utilizes your specific knowledge so much that it feels like play and the money just flows as a byproduct of the leverage you've built, you don't need to retire from your work because your work is your self-expression.
And this all comes back to a final core realization. Life is a single-player game.
We spend so much time playing multiplayer games, chasing status, titles, grades, external validation.
all for the approval of other people who, for the most part, aren't even thinking about us. But in the end, all of your experience happens inside your own head. It's all single player.
So the validation has to become internal. You exercise to feel strong, not to look good on Instagram.
Right.
You earn money for the freedom to say no, not to buy luxury goods, to impress people you don't like.
You read to satisfy your own curiosity, not to seem smart at a dinner party. The whole game has to shift inward.
So as a final takeaway, what is the action manual? How do you start this today?
It's a four-step process. 1. Find your specific knowledge. Go on that archaeological dig into your obsessions.
2. Build leverage. Start writing, start coding, start recording. Create an asset, even if it has an audience of 1. The machine is now running.
3. Have patience. Prepare to spend years in the valley of disappointment. Trust the process of compounding.
And 4. Guard your peace. Stop the comparison game. Practice happiness is a skill you can develop right now, not something you'll get later.
This whole framework, it isn't really about getting rich. That's just a side effect. It's about getting free.
The work is hard, no question. But the prize is freedom. And that's the only game truly worth playing.
And maybe here's a final thought to leave you with. If wealth's greatest gift is the freedom to say no, and happiness is the absence of desire, what is the one commitment, one project, or one desire you are currently chasing that you could use your freedom to say no to right now and instantly increase your peace?